Grand Finals Day 2 are upon us. It is our time to crown champions, qualifiers to the PMSL, and our time to hand out just a little bit of cash at the tail end of things. My name's Time to Light. That right there is DK. Welcome into our PUBG Mobile Campus Championships Fall 2024, Day 2 of Grand Finals. It's $6 grand for the winners, and we've got a few in very good contention for it here, DK.
Oh, yes, I think it's going to be a very exciting day. We've seen day one kick off with quite a bit of a bang, right? 3 exciting matches coming through. Today, I don't think it's going to be any different. In fact, I think it's going to be even better, right? Well, that maybe is different, though. But either which way, the teams are going to be looking to ace as much of the battlefield as they possibly can. And I think the main focus of today is going to be looking to see what the mentality or the approach is coming from the teams over on towards the right-hand side of the leaderboard. Of course, we'll get into the points in a little while. But yeah, today I think it's going to be quite the exciting one.
Yeah, we've got another 16, or the same 16 teams, not another 16 teams. I was thinking semifinals again. Same 16 teams. Scores do carry over from yesterday. We'll get into map order, what the maps are. Spoiler alert, Sanhok is our last map, and that could be the decider between who goes to PMSL, who ends up walking away with more cash, who even ends up getting cash, period. It'll be fun, especially towards the later stage when we see some teams that may be on the lower side of the scoreboard pick up the points they need to get into the top 6.
Yeah, it's going to be a big play here. And, you know, we were talking about this yesterday. 2 teams I'm going to be looking at today is going to be Portage and Hansen. They performed well in the qualifiers. We did not see much of them come through yesterday. In fact, they each got 1 point. I guess 1 point is better than none, but we want to see an improvement on that, right? We want to see a little bit of a refresher, right, for them to just showcase that talent that they showed coming through the qualifiers and the semis, because why not, right? It's going to be bringing quite a bit of that excitement onto the battlefield. And then I think looking towards our strong performers that we've had coming in from yesterday's matches, I'm expecting a bit of an increase coming through potentially from the Centennial team, even as I think South Carolina Upstate. They were showing some great consistency yesterday, so I'm going to be looking to see whether or not they can maybe ramp up those performances a little bit more here today.
And just something to keep in mind, we are on multiple forms of social media, so don't forget to join the conversation, no matter where you may be across the board. Now, we have covered things yesterday. I want to cover it again. We're also on Twitch if you happen to be on YouTube. We're also on YouTube if you happen to be on Twitch, twitch.tv/playflygg. And on YouTube, it's just the PUBG Mobile Esports NA channel. So you can head over there. We're also on X at PUBG Esports NA. I don't know. We have an entire graphic for it. I'm not sure if we're gonna go over there.
Yeah,
maybe
it'll pop up. It'll pop up soon enough. We will be taking a look at that. But yeah, I mean, what a day it's been so far, though, right? We've been seeing these teams starting off all the way qualifiers. We've seen them in previous seasons. I like how the dynamic kind of keeps on changing, but I think the big kicker today here is going to be adding that addition of the Sanhok map in onto the playable area here, right? So because we are going to be playing the other 2, the Erangel, as well as moving over in towards Miramar. But I think then that push coming through, moving into the jungle, I think that is going to be a beautiful bit of a cherry on top. Not quite sure if there's cherries in the jungle, but either which way, we'll find out soon enough. And of course, you were talking about the social media links. Here they are.
We can take a look at our social media. Instagram at PUBG, Esports PUBG Mobile NA. X or Twitter is Esports PUBG MNA. YouTube is the PUBG Mobile Esports NA as mentioned, and you can join in our Discord as well and hang out with me. I'm in there every so often at PUBG Esports NA. I think there's also an overall PUBG Mobile Esports Discord for everybody, not just people in North America, but I actually have no idea. I haven't joined that one. I'm in North America, so that's the one applicable to me. And again, we're on Twitch, twitch.tv/playflygg. Like, head over there. Our first day of play was about as back and forth as things got here, DK. And I felt like some of the teams that we weren't expecting to perform as well as they did at the very end of things were like, hey, we exist.
Yeah, I think to some extent we might have been looking at a little bit of that first day jitters coming through. So yeah, we definitely got to be looking to seeing what they'll be able to bring on in. And of course, for the viewers, in case they forgot who our teams are, the participating teams, the participating schools. Here we go with that beautiful long list of them. All 16 teams represented on there. And of course, we've mentioned a few names already, right? We've been talking about the South Carolina Upstate, aka the Spartans team. Then, of course, we were also referencing Portage as well as Hansen. Going to be looking to seeing what they'll be bringing out onto the battlefield here today. I don't know. TTL, do you think there's any one particular team that is going to be taking the cake here today? Any runaway performances you're expecting to see?
I'm still looking at South Carolina Upstate. They had one game where they just really didn't show up on Vikendi. I feel like that could replicate on Sanhok, so something to be concerned about. But they looked pretty good in map 1 on Miramar. They looked amazing in Erangel. I would not be surprised if that continues today. They do have very good individual potential. We saw them win their 1v3 that it was against BCIT that ended up giving them Erangel, and I'll bring it up again. It was basically a 23 points change where BCIT lost out on 11 possible points. And for South Carolina, they picked up 12 that they may not have otherwise. Those two teams are two of the bigger ones that I'm looking at today.
Well, speaking about the bigger ones, we're going to be looking at here today. Of course, we're going to be taking a bigger look at that prize as well, right? Today is the day where we'll know who's going to be walking away with what, right? So we can see our breakdown of that prize pool coming through. For first place is going to be glorious 6K, $6,000 going their way. Second place, we're locking in 4,000. Of course, trickles its way all the way down to that 5th to 6th position, or 5th to 6th place, which is going to be awarding each of the teams $500. So a nice distribution here. Of course, you want to aim for the top 2 slots, right? So aside from walking away with either $6,000 or $4,000, there's also that slot into the PMSL 2025 qualifying stage, right? So there's going to be quite a bit of pressure, especially on the teams coming into the final 3 matches of the day here.
Yeah, it's the top 2 that really matter. The top 6 if you want to get money, top 2 that really matter. And yeah, you'd like first place of those 2 if you can get it. But that $2,000 difference is not nearly as big as the difference between the $1,000 and qualification to PMSL qualifiers. I'd say there's a larger deficit between 2nd and 3rd, despite the fact that monetarily, there's one bigger between 1st and 2nd.
Well, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it depends on what you prioritize, right? Bragging rights in this event, or even more bragging rights moving forward into, you know, the 2025 pro scene. There's going to be a lot of pressure coming through on that, and I think this is a good breeding ground for teams to step up and move forward into, you know, that pro scene, to get kind of a good taste, a good feel, a good sense of what is expected of them. And I mean, so far, I'm going to say we are looking at some pretty good performances coming through here. Of course, we know this is just fostering potential for these teams. So I'm really curious to see how far they're going to be looking to push the envelope here today.
Yeah, I'm also looking at how some individual teams that maybe didn't perform yesterday will change their playstyle. I mean, we've talked about this back in the semifinals. We talked about this like the last 2 semesters. It's basically the same conversation, slightly different day / time of year. How will you change your playstyle to adjust for the success that you need? There are teams like maybe Portage or Hansen who don't play as aggressive of an initial, we'll say, start to most maps. But at the same time, because they aren't as aggressive, they've been getting caught out. They've been getting aggressed upon, and thus have been dying early. That has to change. They can't afford to go even one more map not getting a minimum of 10 or so points. And that's if they want to get the money. They probably need still 50-something points if they want to try and win this PMCC Grand Final. And that's a tall order in 3 maps time.
It is a tall order, but I think it could maybe be, I think, still somewhat of an accomplishable goal here, right? Looking at the amount of points that we had being acquired in yesterday's games, I don't see the teams on the right-hand side not being able of replicating that effort. I think the difficulty is coming in to stop the teams on the left-hand side from acquiring additional points, and, you know, you then being the team that is going to be running away with those points to get the much needed slot or the angle that you are going to be looking to achieve moving into the remaining games of the day here. So yeah, I think realistically the teams maybe at the topper part of the right side of the page, right? The slots from, let's say, 9th to 12th place, those 4 slots, I think realistically they have probably the highest probability of making it onto the right-hand side and maybe up into the top 6.
So importantly, we are not able to show our scoreboard for today because our API on the back end has updated for our games that are about to start. So I'll just quickly run through at least the top 8 because we don't have time for all of the 16. But top 8, St. Lawrence College, aka BTX, they lead with 15 placement points and 18 elimination points. That's 33 overall. Fanshawe has the same amount of placement points, but they are losing just barely in the battle of eliminations. They've got 31 overall. That, by the way, in terms of team names, if you want to get into some of those specifics, if I could find them, there we go. It's the Villains. BCIT, aka, I'm still looking at the same spreadsheet, thinking to myself, how have I not found them already? There we go. Team Scar, they're at 27. Conestoga College is at 27. USC Upstate's at 26, Centennial College at 22, Grantland Polytechnic is tied with Canada West at 21, and just outside that top 8, but still 6 points away, is Western University. So we want to talk about our maps for today. We talked about it yesterday, Vikendi only being seen once. Today, it's Sanhok, which will only be seen once. Erangel and Miramar will predicate that.
And I think it's an interesting change up with the map rotation here as well, right? Starting on Erangel, heading into the larger Miramar, and then closing it up with Sanhok. I think having had Sanhok maybe as the first match of the day could be even more exciting, but I think Sanhok, regardless of its positioning on the board here, you know, where it is in the rotation, is still going to allow quite a bit of that excitement to pretty much, you know, happen across the board. So yeah, now it's up to Erangel to see where these teams are going to be looking to get themselves situated. We know yesterday's Erangel took us up in towards South George. So I'm curious to see where the flight path and zone is going to be taking us this time around. But the teams, you know, they should be quite comfortable and I think quite adaptable with whatever the zone and flight path could be throwing at them.
So importantly, there are only 61 players in this lobby. Now, how that 61 is split, I do not know. It could be back to Portage College or Punjab not having all of their team. But that's an important change considering yesterday Punjab was the only one without all of their roster. They only had 3. We'll see how that is when players start dropping, and we'll also see our flight path. Starting southeast of the military island, we'll head just south of Hospital. A lot of the playable zones kind of eliminated here. At least a lot of the playable map. Yes, Naya Polyana, teams will have to drive all the way up there and then try and drive back if they want to play for it.
Yeah, well, I think all of that is going to be determined with where exactly the zone is going to be taking us. But so far, having a slightly more southern-focused flight path could maybe change up the dynamic for a few teams. Yesterday, we were talking about where the teams like to drop when it comes to Erangel and, of course, how they've been changing it up, trying to adapt to that flight path. I think that's going to be pretty much the same thing that we'll be looking at in this edition of Erangel here today, because again, right, the flight path, not all too kind to all the teams, which is, I think, kind of to be expected. But yeah, I think it's down to what they'll be doing with that zone positioning, right? So I'm hoping that the zone could maybe be going a little bit somewhere further up towards the northern sides, maybe up into the northeast, towards school, towards Rozok, maybe Mansion, Yasnaya Poliana, somewhere in that vicinity. But we'll be finding out pretty soon, and it's quite easy for the teams to get those rotations sorted if they don't find themselves up within that zone just yet. But the pressure is going to lie, especially now, as I've been mentioning, right? Hansen, Portage, their position is going to be quite important coming into this game, and now we get to see exactly how they're going to be looking to maybe try and traverse around this map, right? We've got Hansen all the way to the far side, so we got them positioned over on towards that, what was it, the western front. Now, how are they going to look to play this one out, right? Already in a very occupied position.
Jaga playing with the Mini 14, single fire weaponry, not very often played with in PUBG Mobile. It's one of the more picked up weapons in traditional PUBG, whether it's on PC or even console for that matter, but not very often going to be used. Mostly what, M4s, you'll even see QBZs, which we saw back on Vikendi, but not much in terms of single fire weaponry. That may change long term as a Car 98K from Liquid kills a member of the Frostbite roster. 2 for nothing right now. Spray from a distance on the Micro Easy does a little bit of damage on the 4x4, but can't find lethality. And I mean, a nade from Stone Cold actually lands? What a throw.
Beautiful reach coming through. It is looking like Demon would at least be able to just bring in a little bit of that support, a little bit of the res to get the numbers back up and going. But I mean, even though we've been looking at quite a few hits now landing up into the side here of Liquid, right? They are still holding on to their numbers. They've not really lost all too much. And I like the fact that Liquid is also going to be looking to kind of try and stoke the flame here, right? We do have Dink down on their knees, but 4x4 now looking to find a little bit of an improved angle, sending out the utility, trying to, at least for the time being, alleviate a little bit of that pressure. But Demon, though, is going to get to capitalize right now, using this quick moment of silence to get themselves just a little bit further forward. And I think this could maybe look to open up an angle here for them.
Stone Cold's isolated. I was about to say maybe dead. Now absolutely is. Shot from Lost ends up dropping them, and that's 2 players now down. 4x4 finishes off what he started with the Car 98K, and will absolutely swap it out to the QBZ, surprising really nobody. Nade being prepped. Neon saw at least 1 player inside this building. They could rush it as the nade's being thrown. There's the visual, but no kill, at least not immediately. He goes around the far side. Great call to do so, but doesn't find the shot he was looking for. It is now very low in comparison. Maybe not the greatest of positions to try and play with a DBS, and he gets that dodge.
Well, I like these quick reactions, though, that we're looking at here. I mean, both Liquid and the side here of Frostbite, both teams really quick on the trigger. They spot those pixels out of place, and the shots go flying on floor. So much so that Neon puts the lights on, and that is, well, the lights going out. For the side here of Frostbite is going to be Shelby now trying to survive up top. Sends out few utilities, does spot the angle over towards 4x4, but a full send is going to end the run right there for Frostbite. Good show of aggression coming through from Conestoga.
So Frostbite is the first team eliminated here on day 2, and it's courtesy of Conestoga or Team Liquid. Not Liquid Esports, not Team Liquid. Different esports roster. Panjab, by the way, is the roster that is down to just 1. Gabrad is the only player here for Portage College. That's the reason we had 61 members at the beginning of this. Since then, 5 players have gone down. 4 of them were on that Seneca Frostbite team. The other one I did not see, but it was somewhere in the Philippines. I'll try to do my best between Ecstasy and USC Upstate, which is where we're headed over to right now. Ecstasy has all 5 of theirs, and they just beat USC Upstate, who's trying to get out of Dodge and hopefully keep all their members alive.
Are you, as the 5th player, you can't see the vehicle on that one, because I'm only seeing 4. But anyway, I'm gonna look over to Ecstasy as they start to move up. They've got a wind of a little bit of something up ahead of them. Of course, it looks like that is going to be the South Carolina Upstate team. Just taking a quick dip over in towards Nova Repnoya. But looking at Ecstasy, Western University here, right? They are seeming to be a little bit more on the comfortable side, right? Not going to be looking to overextend just yet. Instead, they are going to be waiting to see how the positions will play out below them. You can see now, Ecstasy, they've made a bit of a visual contact there. They spotted out one of the opponents. Now going to try and just find that improvement. And I think now it's going to be down to how will they play this, right? Are we going to see a 2-1-1 split? Is it going to be a 2-2 split? Of course, it does seem like the rest of the team now starting to get themselves a bit mobilized. I think this could actually be a 3-1 split that they're going to be opting out for here.
I think it's 1-2-1. They have a player still on that high ground on the far side. So their call is to just try and cover as much zone as they can, at least as much space as they can. Good visuals from distance here, at least for Western from multiple different angles. The one problem, if you're looking at this from the perspective of South Carolina Upstate and the Spartans, is you are still split with a lot of players knowing at least your general area, and you don't exactly have an exit plan. That's the other main issue they're running into here. And without that exit plan, they can very easily be taken care of. Great nade, gets into the top floor, but one will avoid it. And here we're seeing that high ground played top right of your screen. See the very feigned blue outline? That is Stranger just holding host up above and making sure that should the Spartans go for the rotation around towards that south side of the military base island, they'll be seen and or at least noted so that Ecstasy can move if needed.
Well, we'll find out soon enough just how Ecstasy is going to be looking to play this current approach. For the time being, we do have a few teams still up towards the northern side, but nobody really sending it down in towards well, the military island, aside from the two teams that we have currently on screen occupying the space. But another development that I'm going to be looking at is the villains who we have on the bridge, just in front of us over there, right? You can't see them. They don't render in just yet, but the villains are just over the ridge line, holding on that bridge. So depending on how they look to play this one, Ecstasy or the Spartans could find themselves in a little bit of a situation if they choose to rotate over the bridge that we can see Pika now looking at right here. But it does seem like Ecstasy, though, for the time being, are going to be trying to just hold their positions. We do have that glorious flank over towards the southern side coming in here. And I mean, this could really turn out to be quite the beneficial approach coming through then for this idea of Ecstasy.
I love what Ecstasy's doing here. It is not immediately engaging, waiting for all of your positions to start to set in, and that flank is not being done via car. That is a walking/running flank that you see on the bottom side of your mini-map, and you can see Stranger walking through towards those buildings. They know the general area that the Spartans occupy. They don't know the exact positions for a couple of them. You can see the far players just holding towards the coastline, making sure no flank comes through on that side. But still, the issue remains, if Ecstasy and he allow players out for the Spartans, they could rotate, but now they have to worry about that flank, and somehow Stranger loses it! He had Shota dead to rights! There's no way he dies there. I'm sorry.
I mean, Shota has a good angle, so you can't really fault too much of that. Quick reactions, again, are going to be the name of the game here today. And it's no surprise, right? Looking at the performance that we had come through from Shota yesterday, finding those 7 eliminations. I mean, that was pretty crazy, right? 7 eliminations total, locking in 10-13 worth of damage. So over 1,000 of that. And, well, Shota now just showcasing why and how they were able to secure those performances yesterday. So the pressure's going to be on, but not in a super change up coming through for you from the side of Ecstasy, right? They are still holding their distance. They're not sending it in. They're not trying to close any potential gaps. And I think it's respectable because both teams, they are well within the zone, right? Nobody needs to move up. Yeah. But let's see how things might change up now that Ecstasy has gotten themselves back onto that full 3-piece. The health bars are looking pretty good, and well, there we go. A commendable rather decision being made as they decide to disengage and rather get themselves positioned elsewhere.
I really hope they're going further west, not further north. They're making the wrong call here. They're going onto the bridge, and I don't think they know it's actively occupied by the villains. Yeah. Watch out for what very well could be a bridge camp for the ages for the villains, playing that villain role. We'll keep an eye on it as we head over towards Cocket Land on a rotation towards the center of the map over on the Gotka region. There was a down, by the way, and that is happening very much against that Ecstasy roster. Nax goes down, 1 goes down as well, and it's just he, 1 versus 4 with the villains, as the villains have finished off his teammates, and he's just trying to get away with either tires, his life, or hopefully both. He will do so with both, but as an individual, Ecstasy just not ready for that play.
I mean, it's an unfortunate turn of events coming through here for Ecstasy. You know, things were looking pretty hopeful for them. I think had they opted for the Western Bridge rather, things might have gone slightly different, but yeah, it is what it is, right? You can't change it now. It's a little bit too late, so it's up to he to see just how far they'll be able to make it and maybe pull it all the way into that late stage of the game. Meanwhile, we do have teams now starting to push further and further up on towards the southern side of zone. We do see Hansen taking a full-on plunge as they just look to get themselves situated right up close and personal. We got BT right there alongside them. And of course, 777 also just hanging in the wing. So I like the fact that the teams are really starting to kind of pile in, right? Just stacking up as much of the carnage as they can muster. Even Sting, right? Sting starting to move up from that northwestern front here. So it seems like all the teams decided once we hit that stage 2, stage 3, everybody's just going to rush up into center zone.
The problem is here for Sting is they've got a lot of players in their general vicinity. Sign to God is on the north side of Rozhok. Scar we just saw inside a school, and they're taking shots at Fate, who are all the way on the other side of those school apartments. And with Conestoga in the same general area, you've got a lot of shots all coming your general direction. I would not be surprised if Scar realized, hey, we could follow up on this if possible. Callan decides to go for the car, trying to finish off that previous down, but he gets stuck on the corner of the wall. Story of my life.
I mean, so the nice thing is that it's not just a PUBG thing where you get stuck on walls and such.
Yeah.
Right.
Luckily, it doesn't have to be in real life. But...
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that in a lot of other things outside of PUBG, you know, other games and stuff as well. So it's you know, you can say with comfort or with confidence that it's not a PUBG exclusive thing. So that's nice to know. But let's see how the players are going to be able to overcome not only getting stuck on walls, but also still managing to lock in those shots. We did see BCIT, of course, scoring their first elimination here for the day. It's going over to the side there of Ashu, though. Ashu also one of those OP performers from yesterday.
Yeah, it was Ashu and honestly most of the roster picking up in a big way. A little bit of an update on the military base island. Ecstasy has had he go to the south side of the west bridge, and he's currently camping on that side. The villains are still camping the east bridge, and the Spartans are moving east to west to try and go up on that west side. Problem is they're going to run into both Ecstasy and the 777 roster, which is just south of Pachinki, trying to play gatekeepers into now the playable white zone. This is an odd position for the Spartans to take in because it's a little bit of a late rotation, and with Fate and company losing a lot of, we'll say, individual members of their roster, there haven't been all that many full teams of 4 still sticking. Doesn't help when Panjab still's down to 1, and so too is Ecstasy.
It's a tough call to make here. But you're talking about that southern bridge. Here we have he, who now gets enveloped by the blue as it comes rushing on forward. Spartans, though, I'm not quite sure why they decided to push all the way to here. As you can see, they're also not overly committed to getting over the bridge, right? They're still kind of looting it up down on the southern side. Very odd strategy. I'm not quite sure what the approach is, what the plan is, what the end goal is. Hopefully that is to get themselves back in zone. Yeah, based on this approach, it's going to take a hard minute. It's going to take a good long while, because you can see Flash is on foot. The rest of the team, yeah, they're all just kind of over there doing things and stuff and whatnot. In the meantime, we did see the players here from Liquid, of course, taking a little bit more of an aggressive push, getting themselves situated very close in towards that center zone. And surprisingly, though, TTL, like school, not that overly occupied, right? We've got one team over in apartments, one other team over in school itself, and everybody else just hanging around.
Yeah, we've got, I think, one more on that far side of the, I call it the sixes. They're like just northeast of the school apartments. It's an odd position. He is trying to play the hindrance on towards 2 or 3 rotating members. I'm not sure if he's now been seen by Chico. Shots will land. Straggling kill will come through. Now, Ecstasy right now is not the highest of positions on that leaderboard by any means. However, seeing them pick up a couple of these late stage kills is just honestly funny, and more of a hindrance to the South Carolina upstate and the Spartans, who cannot rotate with their full roster anymore, and they've still got one player on this south side of the bridge. No way he goes all the way towards the east side bridge. He's going all the way over. And the villains are
He's not going to make it.
I think he will. He's still got some bandages and a first aid kit.
The villains are in front of him as well. So
no, they're leaving. They were waiting so long.
They're still gonna be in front of him, and I mean, this is like, you know, going through, like, so you want to go from, let's say, like California to New York, you go through Asia, right? This is the long way around. You'll get there eventually. Is it worth it? I don't know. Maybe a good experience, you know, having some of that blue juice along the way. But yeah, I mean, we are in stage 3, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna hit stage 4 before he even makes it out of this blue.
More than likely. I thought you were gonna bring out some expert level Mid-America state knowledge and be like, yeah, if you want to go from California to New York, you got to go through Iowa. No, it's more like if you're going from California to New York, trying to take it through Vancouver, which is actually where Western University and Ecstasy are from. It's still very much out of the way, but not the most absurd thing. Here, Conestoga, for a little bit more local to the center of Canada, they're in the vicinity of, what, is that 3 separate rosters? Arctic Talon to their north, I think to their west, they've got 777 to their south. I can't see who's to their west. It looks like BTX, yeah, St. Lawrence.
Mm. Yep,
And just an update, the villains have moved all the way in towards the mountains above the school. Panjab's singular player is, for some reason, at the mansion, and Ecstasy has gotten just about into the zone inside a farm. Well, the Spartans still have not left that west side bridge.
Well, you say just about, and just as he gets close to the edge of zone, it seems like they crash into something, and then the zone caught up with him again, right? And what's going to be quite problematic is that Ecstasy is rotating up to the villains, right? I said the villains are going to pose a threat. They are holding on to Potato Hill, and well, he's going to come rolling right up to them. So we could very well, very soon, see in the feed that Ecstasy might have been wiped on out. But, well, we still sit with 15 teams on board, right? 15 teams still alive. And, well, Spartans just now starting to rotate up from that far southern side.
That was very late rotation for the Spartans. It's not a bad call. Problem is you have to find a spot to rotate into. And with 4 teams around Pachinki and another one between Pachinki and the playable side of school, the Spartans are going to go either through the highway and into everybody, including maybe the villains, or possibly all the way around everybody. In this case, it seems like they're headed up the main highway. Gabrad is headed on the south highway through farm and around towards this side of Pachinki as well. And somehow he has made it in towards the zone. He, not the pronoun, the proper noun of Ecstasy's player with big vendor.
Yes. Anyway, we've also seen quite an aggressive shift going to do from zone, taking us all the way to, well, the ruins and the sunken city, right? So, yeah, I mean, you gotta get that gas going, right? Otherwise, how do you expect he to make it all the way up into wood zone, right? The dangerous spot is that, well, he finds himself right here on the edge of the blue. Fortunately, there's still a minute left before the blue's gonna start moving. The unfortunate side is this is the fast side of the zone, right? Yeah. Not the slow side, not the short side. That's the long, you gotta run like someone's chasing you side. Speaking of chasing though, it could now potentially turn into the Arctic Talons looking to chase up that point, right? As they do find themselves pretty dang close here to a little bit of that aggression. We got the villains as well as Liquid holding pretty close to them. We got SCG here from Sinclair, also now just well established on the northern side of the sunken city. So Sting, they're gonna have a pretty tough time maybe playing the upset here.
Oh, and bad timing there for SRAN. With one exploded car on top of another. Great nade from Mr. Flash. Maybe a follow-up shot. He doesn't get the opportunity. Importantly, Scout Op has been down. While all this is happening, the villains are rotated all the way towards that west side, just above these ruins. And you can see they've dropped one of the Spartans, but the Spartans have dropped one back the other way. And Georgian College is getting involved, while Sting tries to bring it back, and it works against Fate. So many separate teams occupying the swampland of the ruins, and for the time being, nobody's coming out definitively on top.
And that just shows to the level of gameplay that we have here between these teams, right? A very, very even battleground between them. Nobody taking that sort of lead. Still quite the contentious play that we have currently going on. Fanshawe, though, quickly trying to get themselves into a little bit of an improved position. He has Sting trying to hold it nice and steady. Oh, no way. Molly's looking good. It's going to be the Rich Warriors just running through the fire and the flames. Meow. Just trying to quickly get themselves bashed up. Responding with the Molly of their own. Good play up top. Now they are starting to whittle away at the expense here of the Rich Warriors. Are we going to see that follow-up? No, instead it's going to be a knock coming in as the utilities now start flying all over the place. You can see the teams just really starting to cram right up into the sunken city here.
And we've dropped now down to 13 teams. Georgian College was actually the first real team down after our initial skirmish in the first 10 minutes or so of this one. Arctic Talon has taken heavy blows from BCIT and Scar, and they're only bringing one of those back. The Rich Warriors and Sting are still at it. Sting has had a couple of their own members finish, but Hod and Gats end up dropping in of their own. Scar losing more members. Portage College has finally had Panjab drop. It took them 23 minutes for Gabrad to be found, but he's quickly taken care of.
Well, let's see if they are going to be taking care of more business, as we are still set now. 12 teams. Not a lot of room to wiggle through. Sure, again, just going to be dipping, ducking, diving, and dodging their way as the lead continues to get fired in their direction here. But so far, BCIT, though, actually, I mean, looking pretty decent. They've got those 3 eliminations up. Yes, they've got essentially only 1 player on their feet. But there could still be quite a bit that is going to be happening from the Centennial. Also trying to pick up the pieces here. Ooh, yeah, you got to watch them dips out as Jimmy from BTX reaches all the way on through. Gats says, don't worry, I got you. I'm going to get that res up, and then we're going to run all the way through. Ooh, Dr. Doom, though, finding quite a bit of a dent at the expense there of Gunday.
Still is 12 teams alive. Scar is down to an individual member. Arctic Talon is down to 2. Gunday, I think, just has 1, and that's Sook. Flash God is the last remaining member of the Spartans. BTX is somehow still at full strength. The Villains are just down 1. But we've seen a lot of big-name teams drop most of their roster. BCIT drops entirely in 12th place, no less. And I think their only points were that fight earlier. Not the best of showings for a roster that has been near the top of the table. I mean, they're in 3rd place right now with 27 points.
Yeah, I mean, BCIT, maybe they're going to be looking to pick up the approach as we push into the later stages of the day here. But in the meanwhile, I mean, South Carolina also just going to be trying to ride that one out. Sook comes through with another quick pickup. As you see, Ultron also taking quite a bit of damage here. Could be a nice bit of an exchange, but this is where the Villains, aka Fanshawe, needs to be super, super careful, as he got BTX also now looking to get their slice of the action. Sook, very sneaky nade. I'm not quite sure BTX really spotted out where the utility is coming from, but I think there's going to be quite a bit of a challenging approach now for Sook, as we do see Flash God also reaching all the way across the zone, all the way from up north here, just poking and prodding, just picking out whoever they can find. But things are not going to get any easier from here. We still have 10 teams alive, and everybody and their friends needs to cram up into the sunken city. And already we see quite a few of these compounds already being occupied and already being held up in such a way that I think it's going to be leveraged against who is yet to push on in.
That's the Frostbite roster that finally gets finished off. If not, it's the other Sting run. I think it may have been Sting that gets dropped out. These sprays coming through on a late rotation from BTX. That down from Flash God ended up being a lot more of a hindrance than most people may have thought. The play zone does end up dropping at least 1 from BTX. But there's Jimmy from above. Somehow doesn't immediately kill Gats. And Gats gets inside the car. He ends up jumping out of the car and drops 2 players from BTX. There's no way he techs himself into the car and avoids a player. They think he's down, and he gets out and gets a kill. Hod goes down to the nade. Another nade coming in. Gats is still alive in that smoke, I might add, but he's taking so many shots from multiple teams. His living likelihood is very low at this point, and he's one shot from death.
Well, you say that, and we see the shots starting to connect on through. I like the step up going through from Hansen as well. I mentioned earlier that we need to see Hansen remind us of their performances that we saw in the semifinals. But here we go. It is going to be a potential second breath coming in on their side, rather. I like this play going through from the Rich Warriors as well. Definitely going to be looking to bring in quite an impactful approach here. But now the zone has shifted all the way to the southern side, right? Looking quite favorable, especially now for Hansen, and of course then the players coming through from Rich Warriors. So I think there could be still quite a bit of a setup here. I mean, as you can see, Cocket Lamb already 7 eliminations on board, and they now possess kind of a bit of a gatekeep position onto this next phase.
Yeah, it's them and the Rich Warriors. Well, Hansen and the Rich Warriors trying to play that fool's errand. Sign to God getting dropped by the last member of Gunday. Sook is still a nuisance to seemingly everybody. So the Rich Warriors are down to 2. Team TTR, aka Hansen, is down to 3. I think Ecstasy is still on their last individual member, and as soon as I say it, they go down to Quantlin Polytechnic. But Quantlin can't afford to rotate here, and as soon as Hustle does, he finds the perfect timing on it. He may drop Camper depending on the timing he finds, but it really comes down to that timing in this 1 versus 1. He does not have any heals. He'll more than likely go down to the play zone, and would rather do that than die to Camper. He will go down to the play zone, but Quantlin as a team go down in 5th place.
Yeah, I mean, valiant effort being brought in by them. Now it's going to be up to Prince and Bath to show us just how much they are willing to try and dominate the zone here. Rich Warriors also getting a little bit of that bullying play coming in their direction. Gunday still holding on to Sook there, so 2 of our 3 teams right here up in the safe area. So it's just a numbers game now, just a waiting game as we look to see whether or not Sook might be able to survive. I don't see that being all too possible. Yep, there we go. Canada West is out of here, and so we are down to the final 2. It is going to be Hansen v Cocket Lamb to see which team will be the one to take the very first winner chicken dinner on our last day of the grand finals. It is going to be a utility showdown. Camper about to be met with a little bit of that explosive action, getting real up close and personal. As you can see, Judd 24k also just holding nice and steady. They don't want to give up any positions unnecessarily. Ooh, nice connecting hits being made. That is Bath now looking to flush them out. Kappa, the last hopeful here. The send is there. And we have it as Hansen take care of business, securing themselves the very first chicken dinner of the day.
Winner, chicken dinner for Hansen College and Team TTR. But the fact is, Hansen College coming into today were in absolute dead last. They were tied with Portage College, who again yesterday only had 3 members and today only have 1. Yet they walk away from our first game of day 2 with a winner chicken dinner and a fair few kills to go alongside it. That shows you any game is a new game. Any map can bring in new tides and new chicken dinners for some teams that may not have performed. That is the case for TTR and their game 1 win. Only 4 elims, interestingly enough. We'll take a look at our MVP for the game. I'm certain it will be Jat. It is indeed Jat 24k, 4 elims, nearly 500 damage. But a win for Team TTR, that's maybe the difference maker here.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great win coming through for Hansen College. You've said it already. They started out in last. Now they sit up in the chicken dinner position, right? Not quite sure how or where that's going to end them on the leaderboard after this first game, but of course a very well-deserving performance coming through here from Judd, all the way from yesterday's plays here. So let's take a look and see who our MVP is, our most insane team of the day. Of course, it's got to be right over to the side here of Fanshawe, securing themselves 9 eliminations as well as a pretty impressive 1400 damage. So, you know, the villains staying true to their name, bringing in some villainous damage.
Yeah, the problem is they did not finish all that high in terms of placement. So even with those 9 elims, they picked up a max of maybe 2 points. And despite the fact that Hansen College only had 4 elims as a team, they pick up 14 points, sure, but they did worse in the game than Cocket Lamb. Because Cocket Lamb not only had the 7 elims, they had the 6 placement points, so that's 13. That's basically the same. But they started 14 points higher on that leaderboard. Speaking of the leaderboard, let's head over and take a look at where we stand after 4 maps of play. It will be a still increase for Cocket Lamb. They go up to 20. They should go up higher than 24. I'm gonna be honest. I think they should be at 28, but we'll get that detail in a minute. Either way, they move up, but Hansen going to 15 points. That's a big change for them.
Yeah, I mean, a push is a push at the end of the day. So That is going to be, you know, a nice little bit of a change up that we've got coming through here. Not much of a change over on towards the right-hand side of the board, right? We did have St. Lawrence starting off the day up in pole position. Of course, we can see that nice little bit of a change up from Fanshort, just dropping places with them. British Columbia, though, right? BCIT, they've taken a little bit of a dip. You know, getting moved all the way down to that 5th position. South Carolina, Upstate third, keeping it nice and consistent. So the big moves, the big shifts, definitely coming through from the side here of Canada West. As we can see them starting in 8th place, now up to 4th. But I think the biggest jump, of course, no surprise, right, is going to be Hansen starting in 16th, now up into 12th position. If they keep this flow going, they are going to be heading over to that left side rather of the leaderboard real soon.
Yeah, they will keep moving up. The problem is if they have another winner chicken dinner, they just need more eliminations. Yeah, sure, 4-point elim is nice, or 4-point winner chicken dinner is nice. You get 14 overall. But even if they did that 2 more times, they'd only finish with, if I'm doing my math correctly here, don't quote me on this, 43 points. And there's no way that both Fanshawe and St. Lawrence don't get a minimum of 5 or so points. Yeah, you'd like to get in the top 6 for the money, but you need that top 2 if you want to get into the PMSL qualifiers. Speaking of PMSL qualifiers, South Carolina Upstate, after game number 2, was at 26 points. After game 3, was still at 26 points. And now after game 4, they're at 28. They've gotten 2 points in 2 games.
Well, 2 points is 2 points, right? Points are points at the end of the day. You just obviously got to try and get more offset points. That is, I think, you know, the kind of flow that we are going to be looking forward to here. But yeah, I like the approach coming through from Hansen. Nice showing of aggression coming in, securing themselves the points. You got to give it up to Portage though, right? Even though Portage came in with a bit of a disadvantage here, they doubled their points from yesterday. In one match, they doubled their points from yesterday. That is impressive. I don't care what you say about it. It's impressive. They doubled their points. Statistics are statistics, right? So, yeah, hopefully Portage can go over and above that. Maybe we can see, like, you know, maybe 2-3 additional points getting sent their way. But we'll see that in due course. But I think now moving over onto the side of Miramar is where things are going to be looking to take a slight bit of a change. Because yesterday we started out with Miramar. Teams had a nice opportunity to really get those legs stretched. Now, as we're coming from Erangel heading over in towards Miramar, I think they're going to come in with a lot more focus, right? A lot more honed skill. That's not the right term, but either which way, I think we are going to be looking to see quite an improvement in gameplay coming into Miramar.
Instead of taking a while to warm up, they will have already been warmed up. We'll allow them to maybe cool down after what was a very heated game 1. Gunday still shows up. They pick up a fair few points, despite the fact that Suk was an individual for most of that game. Portage, they double their points. We saw a lot of individuals, including Ecstasy's He, retrieve some numbers at the tail end of that one, but that's only the tail end of our first map here of day 2. It's Miramar when we come back in the PUBG Mobile Campus Championships. So the map order has changed since yesterday. Erangel is our warm-up map. We will not see it for the remainder of our day 2 or for the entirety of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championships Grand Finals. I'm Time to Light. That right there is DK. And honestly, out of day 2 here, we've already seen a good start for a couple of individual teams, but a lot of squads are losing too many members early and thus kind of handicapping themselves when they get towards the later stages and not being able to perform.
Yeah, I think obviously you want to try and take the numbers as far as you can, right? So I think we need to see that focus returning, right, on keeping the numbers well into the late stage of the game. You can't say that, you know, they made a blunder, because I don't agree. I don't think it was a blunder. Maybe it was a bit of a oopsie. Who knows? Maybe that's the same thing. But technically, it's spelled differently. So either which way, we are going to be looking to see if teams can consistently continue to rank up points like we saw come through from Hansen in this game. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see one of the Seneca teams also find a little bit of something, right? Either have Sting or Frostbite. Also, you know, maybe lock in a few additional points along the way. But I think we might be looking at a pretty consistent positioning with regards to what we have happening over on towards the left-hand side, right? With Fanshawe, St. Lawrence, I think Conestoga, Canada West, and of course British Columbia. I think it's going to be between those 5, but I won't discount the players coming through from South Carolina Upstate or Centennial, because I think they could still quite easily, you know, make quite a bit of a decisive play, especially with regards to the points in only the final 2 matches.
And I'm also looking at some of those teams that are just on the cusp of that top 6, maybe even, I'd say Canada West all the way down to Western. Those teams really in the position of, hey, we are still in very much contention to pick this game up. A winner chicken dinner and maybe 8 or 9 kills. We've seen a lot of teams picking up multiple eliminations. I mean, in that game alone, the Villains had 9 elims, and yet they only finished just inside the top 8, and barely at that. If they picked a better position to try and reintroduce themselves into stage 5, of that zone, this is a completely different conversation. Maybe the Villains are leading by a heck of a lot more. They're still leading, sure, but they could have a heck of a lot, not only in terms of placement, but a few more kills because they showed up a lot early.
Yeah, as we know, consistency is quite key, right? I know that's a little bit of a cliche thing to say, but that's 100% accurate, because that is what happens in PUBG, right? The more you can maintain that consistency, the better your team will do at the end of the day. So obviously, you got to go for the right kind of consistency, right? If you consistently rather find yourself walking away with a bag of donuts, I mean, that's the wrong kind of consistency to focus on, right? You want to have some goodies in the bag, not have an empty bag. So yes, get those points, but do so on a rather regular basis. Of course, that would have been ideally happening yesterday already, right? Game 2, Game 3 yesterday. It is a little bit late today, so I'm not expecting to see any drastic, outlandish shifts coming through from the right-hand side. If it does happen, I applaud the teams who pull that move off, because that's going to be amazing. But realistically speaking, I think we're kind of sort of set in what the board is looking like right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at this from the perspective of somebody who's thinking, hey, what are the teams that could make a late stage surge? I think the only 3 are really the top 3 teams on the right side of that scoreboard. It's Cocket Lamb, Western, and St. Clair. Sign to God looked pretty decent in that game. They kind of got thrown off because Ecstasy alongside Canada West both had players in an odd position. Gunday and Ecstasy both there as individuals, yet both of them kind of targeted Sign to God. Feels bad, man. It happens. But there, you're looking at as Sign to God thinking, well, we've got most of this covered. We're in a pretty decent position. Let's move on. Well, we're going to send things over to our leaderboard again, reevaluate our game 4 score. I do think we got an update of things out of our 4th map of play. Actually, I think this is the exact same. Did we?
Yeah. It's there, but I mean, this still gives us a good opportunity to talk about the points, right? Because you mentioned Cocket Lamb, Western, St. Clair. I would add a Hansen into the top, into those 3 as well, right? I know technically it's 4, but looking at the points, I mean, if Hansen can replicate what they just did, that would put them quite comfortably at least somewhere in the top 6, right? Top 8. At the worst, right? So, yeah, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for Hansen now to build on the momentum that they've had here. I want to see a little bit more of that. I think that could maybe be quite a bit of a story that they're going to be making here, but only time will reveal it. But the pressure's going to be on to the top 8 right now, because the onus is on them to not only try and confirm their position on the standings, but also kind of deter other teams from replacing them.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple teams where, I mean, Cocket Lambs are on the outside of things. Centennial and South Carolina Upstate. South Carolina Upstate and BCIT have basically been two rosters have just continually been sticking around with one another. BCIT, South Carolina Upstate, Centennial's even starting to get involved there. And fate is the same. And as we readdress where we're headed as our second map, Miramar is a big factor in how the end or tail end of this grand finals will transpire.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think you could say, the determining factor, or potentially maybe even the deciding match to some extent. We'll know closer to the end of Sanhok, well, rather Miramar, how this is going to pan out. But yeah, I think Miramar is going to be a golden opportunity for teams really to try and stretch their legs to maybe come with a more dynamic approach to the battlefield, right? Thinking outside of the box instead of, trying an approach that might have not been all too successful for them previously, aka yesterday. So yeah, I'm curious to see and excited for what these teams will be bringing into match number 2.
Well, at this point in the game, the game of the matches plural, I suppose, if you're looking at this from the perspective of a team like Cocket Lamb, like Western, like even Quantland Polytechnic, if you do not play as quick as the villains did in our previous game, you just are not going to pick up the points you need. Yes, 16 points is not the most absurd of deficits for Cocket Lamb, 15 for Quantland, even 20 for Western. But you still need to pick up those points to make it up towards the top and limit villains, limit St. Lawrence and BT, limit even Conestoga from getting more points. And I don't know how easy that is when the villains have played their own game to near perfection today.
Yeah, it's going to prove to be quite challenging, but I think that is part of the, part of what makes this such an exciting approach is anything and everything can happen all at once or not at all. So it's all going to come down to what the determination and the focus is of these teams and how badly they want these points, right? Because, yeah, that is going to be the main kicker here. Just looking at the sheer aggression from what we've been seeing, our top 10 teams, they've definitely been doing quite a bit of, handiwork with regards to that aggression. I mean, even all the way down to Western, sat in 10th place. I mean, they've come into this match with 14 eliminations on board, right? So there's an opportunity for the teams just a little bit further down, like what we have on screen here, Seneca, to continue to apply that pressure. Portage, unfortunately, is going to be with a bit of a shortage of HP here as they will make their way back into the lobby.
And he said portage and shortage. They rhyme.
Yes, I did indeed.
So I want to know how long portage lasted in our previous game, because there was at least one member. No, they actually picked up 2 members in this one, which for some reason they're playing still with limited rosters, but still actively participating, which is objectively hilarious. And even with the kill point they had in the previous game, they weren't too far out of contention. Let's see. Okay, so Portage got eliminated 23 minutes into our first map of Erangel here, which is just shy of the beginning of stage 5 closing. So a little bit less time, even with 2 players. Unfortunately, they kind of got targeted by Sting here.
Yeah. I mean, it does sting a little bit, being the first team to leave, but, yeah. It is what it is.
Any more zingers?
I've got loads more. See, I don't know where they're coming, but they just kind of come when they do. So, yeah, none of this is planned, and that's the beauty of it, right? I even don't know what I'm going to say when I'm going to say it. But speaking of which, though, I am noticing that there's quite a bit of a vacancy towards the southern side of zone, like Chumacera, wide open. Minas de Valle, all the way open, right? Even Los Leones only has, I think, one team in there. if it's that much even. I mean, Ecstasy, they're not quite in Los Leones, not right now. They will be maybe soon, depending on how they choose to rotate. But it does seem like BTX, or they are actually actively starting to rotate down in towards Los Leones. So the peace and tranquility in our glorious city might come to an abrupt end.
What is this? The Avatar: The Last Airbender? There is no Fire Nation in Ba Sing Se. Something. That was the old joke. Well, let's take a look at where everybody is here on our aforementioned map. Los Leones is fairly unpopulated at this point. BTX was moving in. Seems like that continues to be the case. And Ecstasy is moving south there. A lot of early movers with this zone, and that's probably the good call with most of Los Leones being playable here, and probably all of it will be, at least in this zone, more than likely in the next one as well, and even more than likely the one after that, just the same. So, Arctic Talon and Seneca Frostbite are to the west. Rich Warrior, Scar, TTR, and Sign to God to the north. The Sting is even near TTR. And with Villains alongside, I think that's Conestoga on that east side with Liquid. They're all kind of fighting one another for those pieces of control along highways. Interesting.
I don't really understand why, because it's not the most advantageous position. Maybe they just having having a bit of a showdown because it's a showdown. Yeah, we'll see how that one pans out. A little bit of love and attention as well. But one thing I'm going to be looking at though is to see how Frostbite are going to be looking to rotate in, right? Will we see them go through Monte Nuevo towards Picado? Are they going to go all the way down to Valle del Mar and then take a rotation that way around? I think that could maybe be an interesting sneak approach from their end. But then of course on the other side we've got STG all the way up towards the far north. It's very similar to what we've seen yesterday from them on this exact same map. So I'm hoping a little bit more of a quicker response, right? So they don't get enveloped by that blue yet again. Especially not a Miramar. Want to see them nice up and, ahead of that blue zone. But I like this flow also coming through then from the Villains, aka Fanshaw. And then, of course, we got the players from Liquid, who we saw just a little bit further down towards their southern side. BTX, though, we were mentioning it before, right? Taking that plunge, getting themselves positioned right down in towards Los Leones. But an interesting setup, right? Interesting approach that they decided to go for here. Going for, I believe, this blue bottom. Maybe going to try and get themselves perched up on the roof as they are trying to get that spread. But I think the big kicker here, especially for Los Leones, is who's controlling the southern hills as well as the eastern hills.
I mean, we're seeing so much control kind of given up by a lot of teams who don't feel like controlling, I'd say, a lot of the power points outside the zone. Scar, I wouldn't be surprised if they're one team that moves a little earlier. They should know at least Sign to God is on the north side, because each of the 3 times we've seen Sign to God here on Miramar, this one included, the other one yesterday, and the first time back in the semifinals, Sign to God has just been occupying north side of Miramar. Every time, nothing changes, and it honestly doesn't have to. It's working fairly well for them. But if Scar wants to try and play gatekeepers there, they very well could, and that'd be the highway to do so. Unfortunately, as soon as I say it, they start moving. That is the call.
I mean, movement is good, right? Supposedly, right? If made in the right direction, movement is good. Not just any movement, but yes, movement. Conestoga though, 4x4 definitely needs to change that vehicle up. Or maybe just at least change the oil, because I think something's wrong. Maybe there's a hole in the radiator. This doesn't look healthy. I mean, it would be fine if the smoke was coming out the exhaust, but when it comes out out in front, right, something's wrong. It could still serve as a nice bit of hard cover, but I'm not quite sure if Liquid is going to be looking to really utilize that, at least down towards the southern side of zone. And of course, we'll find out in just under 3 minutes where exactly stage 2 is going to be taking us. So this allows quite a bit of an opportunity here for teams to get themselves set up in anticipation of the, the stage 2 rotations. that are going to be finding their way on through here. Villains, I like the setup up on the hills, but also not only is it on the hills, but it's also, I think, quite in an advantageous position here, right? Because we've got teams that could come rotating up from the east, coming in just towards that southern side of them. Also teams rotating just ahead of us, as we can see over there. So I think, at least for the villains and, you know, aka Fanshaw, this is a good setup, right? Quite a bit of a controlling angle that they might have here.
I mean, there are a lot of teams. Hankoku's lucky to even have a kill this far. The only reason Seneca does, or Sting specifically, is because they've already gotten that drop on a portage earlier. But with 15 teams, we're 9 minutes into things, and this should not speed up by any means. What we've seen before is on play zones around Miramar, not a lot of it being playable. A lot of times we see it towards that southeast side, even towards the south side, where it's a lot of water. In this one, almost the entire zone minus some of the south side is playable, and that should be the same point.
Oh, there we go. Nice run. Scout, I mean, I love it when the players stay true to their name, right? Scout just super committed to, well, scouting out that play. Dr. Doom, I'm not quite sure how Dr. Doom's going to stay true to their name, but either which way, we want to see these plays now start to pan out. And I think this is where Fanshaw are going to find themselves maybe facing a little bit of pressure, right? I already said what a good position this is, but it's all going to depend on how they play this angle, right? If they wake up enough, they could drive this one all the way back to the bank.
I'm also looking at, I'd say, some of these rosters who are just not rushing whatsoever. I've talked about this 3 or 4 times. I think this will be one of the few times I bring it up before we close. With Sting being at 8 points, Georgian College at 6, Frostbite at 5, and Portage down at 2. Portage is gone, and honestly, with 2 or 3 roster members, it really wouldn't matter from this point onwards. But if you look at them, they're not in any rush to pick up the points that they absolutely and desperately need if they want to play even in towards the money, much less the PMSL qualifying spots. Western Shore is still in that general vicinity of it. Same thing for St. Clair, Cocket Lamb, Quentland, Polytechnic even. Everybody above that doesn't need to rush by any means. But those, I'd say 6, 7 teams or so, if not more than that, just don't seem to be in any hurry to pick up points that could very well be theirs, but they're allowing others to pick it up for them.
I mean, it's a thing, right? Sometimes it's quite difficult to figure out why things happen the way they do. And all we can do is sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and hope that it'll pan out, right? To be beneficial for the teams that actually need those points. Speaking of points, though, Hansen, we did see that glorious push come through from them. Game number 1, game number 2. They're also playing it a little bit more on the passive side here. And you can't really fault them for that because they don't want to make too much noise, right? They want to still preserve a bit of the opportunity to find that surprise play. But speaking about surprises, though, Arctic Talon, aka Centennial, all the way over to the far western side of zone. It's going to be a tough rotation, right? Not because it's a long way, a long trek back into zone, but just the terrain itself could maybe be posing quite a bit of a challenge for them, at least to get themselves situated here. And of course, there's a few teams along the way. If they decide to rotate through to Macera, they might be a little bit more safe, but it does seem like they are going to be opting for that Minas del Valle approach, going along, you know, that more southern angle to get themselves situated.
So many teams going for early rotations. There are a couple late ones, like Sign to God, back at it with the late rotations that just don't seem to be in any rush to go for it. Rich Warriors are on that far east side as Cocket Lamb is kind of realizing we don't need to go as quickly as maybe we thought we did previous games or in previous games. I mean, a 13-point game 4 overall is pretty good, but they can use a little bit more. The Villains, Spartans, Ecstasy, and even B-Town are all in the general area of Los Leones, and there are more teams rotating in that general area as well. Fate, who just got caught up with Gun Day, TTR, Georgian College, and Scar are even moving there as well. There's a lot of instances where some squads could get caught out of position if they go for these rotations, and others could get caught as they rotate in. TTR is one of them. Seems like B-Town has found them.
Well, here we go. It is going to be push. It is going to be push. Who will be the one to get it, though? I like this from Georgian 777. just holding on. Nice little bit of a setup here. Again, not the most aggressive approach that they could be looking to take, but it could be maybe somewhat of an approach that they could hopefully survive in, at least for the time being. I mean, I can obviously see where they find themselves currently situated, but I want to see how Gunday and Fate and all the other teams over towards that western side, what they'll be doing with, you know, the noise being made here by 777, because you can see Scar poking, prodding, trying to maybe provoke Gunday to do something. And I mean, this is such a centralized position, so this could actually be a position that the teams might decide to fight over.
Seems like 777 want to hold this one either with their lives or with their team's lives. I don't blame them, honestly. This is a pretty decent spot to hold overall. You're still in the general area of Los Leones. You can kind of swarm in on it if you want to. And Fate don't have the greatest of spots. They're still exposed to most of the southeast of the zone for all those teams who are rotating in late, which, by the way, is still Arctic Talon, still Liquid, Sting, and Signed to Gods. There's still 4 teams that they don't particularly know about. They don't have the benefit of X-ray vision, but it still could be something they're very much against. Shaw trifling with death there, or maybe his fate. I'm sorry, but it doesn't seem like it's going to cost him.
Yeah, I just want to do the whole thunder. No. Oh, there we go. Shaw coming through with a quick response there. Hustle also just creeping in a little bit closer. I'm not quite sure if anyone is really going to try and apply too much pressure here onto the side of 777. I'm sure if they make enough noise and they, I think, you know, try to annoy Fate enough, Fate might respond. But I think for the time being, Fate are going to try and maybe jump at the opportunity, as we do see SCG now just rotating up alongside them. SCG, actually, that is going to be quite the difficult rotation, because we've got Liquid just ahead of SCG there as well. So there's going to be several teams that could be looking right into the side of SCG for those shots though. Zeus quickly dipping up and down, just trying to stay out of harm's way. Let's take a look at that map and see where these teams are. Of course, we've got a few seconds left until the next zone is going to be popping as well.
So everybody's gotten into the zone. Signed to God has made a big push in. They were over towards Chumacera and Minas del Valle alongside Sting, but they kind of just sped by him and even got past Liquid unscathed. This is a decent spot for them to hold down. With this late rotation, they found a couple of spaces open, and the zone closes in their general direction as well. All those teams that go for the late rotation in Sting, Arctic Talon, Seneca's Frostbite, and Signed to God all get into the next zone, whereas everybody other than Liquid is on the outside.
I think this is where I want to see Ecstasy with that rotation that they're making now towards zone. I want to see them lock it in on the edge of zone. Like just on the inside of zone, but lock it down on the compounds, because we are going to be seeing quite a few teams now just trying to kind of flow through that area to get themselves situated. And that could be an exceptional position to just capitalize and, well, dominate all at the same time. In the meanwhile, over on towards that far western side of zone, we can see Centennial now just getting themselves a few of those points on board. It is going to be Howd with the 2 points up. Okay, not full on Sen here, just doing enough so they could actually create a bit of an opportunity to breathe. Right, quick repositioning coming through on their end. Hansen, though, starting to mobilize a little bit more. They still have to do quite a bit of work to get themselves not only out of Los Leones, but also well positioned up in towards the zone. They still have 3 players up, so there's still a bit of an opportunity for these players to come through. But I think this is where Hansen should not get too distracted and too zoned in on, you know, competing or contesting against BTX.
The ironic part of this is both teams have 1 player outside of the multi-story fight that the other 2 on their team are in. So nobody from the bottom or top floor of that can really throw in nades. Prince is going to drop even further down and avoid a nade of his own. And it seems like they've gotten mostly out of things. BTX is 2 players on one side and 2 players up on the high ground above where Prince currently is. Brar is going for that 3rd-person peek around the wall. And Prince just kind of can't afford for this. I wouldn't blame TTR if they try and get out of here. Problem is they don't have a car to do so with.
It's a tough play though. I mean, we also see those purple dots on the minimap That, of course, is the side of 777 that are just keeping a very, very close eye on them. I honestly think that 777 have quite a bit of an advantage here because they've been sitting just listening to the exchanges coming in between Hansen and BTX. So yeah, I'm expecting quite a bit of a gatekeep play then to come through there from the side of 777. We do see Toxic Kid breaking off, looking to establish a bit of an angle here. And as soon as 777 is out of there, I think this should be the cue for Hansen, if they're paying attention to their surroundings, to get the heck out of Dodge, right? Because that zone's going to close right on top of them. Yep, they just need to push it. Nice. Oh, there we go. All right, so Hansen getting out of the cooker. But now, are they going to get out of the kitchen? That's going to be the big question.
Can't handle the heat, you might as well get out of the kitchen. Seems like B-Town needs to worry about that front. But TTR, after picking up that down, just getting away and picking up the one vehicle that was in the vicinity and using it to get out of Dodge while they can. They've still got 300 meters to go in that 20-second stage close. Now, there's still not a lot of damage done by the blue zone at this point in the game. You really can't afford to give over your healing, especially when we're moving, like you saw on that map, to a fairly unpopulated part of this map. There's not a lot of points of interest. There aren't a lot of playable buildings, at least in comparison to what it could have been if it pulled into Los Leones. So even if you find a building, you won't have all that much loot left over, if any at all. And now, is that Sign to God getting into it? With, I think that was the Rich Warriors. No, it was Seneca and the Rich Warriors alongside the Spartans all kind of getting into it.
Well, I mean, looking at what we've got at the zone right now, the compound right behind these two teams, right behind Fate and Centennial, where Sting now is currently occupying, that is going to be prime, especially moving into this region, right? Where Sting is right now, and then, of course, just north of Dead Smack Center, there's another glorious compound there. I think that we are going to be looking at those two spots being quite contentious, and I think we are going to be experiencing quite a bit of fighting erupting due to those. Great thing about the smoke here is RQ9 can't see the player held up right alongside them, and that is going to be a great opportunity now for Arctic Talons to capitalize and come rushing straight on forward as Centennial now start to clean it on up. They still have Shaw left to deal with, but once they've cleaned up Shaw, they're still going to work their way through Sting, who we have just towards their east. And this is where I think especially even the north is going to become quite a bit of a problematic position. I mean, Liquid, they're looking good, but things not looking all too great now for Hansen, who are really having their numbers starting to dwindle here. I mean, Shaw getting shot at, that back tire getting popped. That's not the one that you want popped. You want the front. Any one of the two front tires, that is still okay. It still makes the vehicle usable. But this is what the compound I was talking about, right? Sting looking absolutely golden right now.
Wait, Meow didn't see him. Hold up, how in the world do you not see him? He was just going down the mountain. Shaw's been able to get off healing, and he was absolutely visible on the front side of a rock, and now he's not even seen. He gets out alive, even with a tire popped on a buggy, which is already a problem. He lives through it, and doesn't get shot at by anybody else who was around him. The villains with Rich Warriors trying to play gatekeepers just on the outside of this white zone. 30 seconds till stage 4 fully closes. And the Rich Warriors are not the only team in this general vicinity. They've got the Spartans to their east, Seneca Frostbite to their northeast, and Ecstasy is even further southeast of this.
Well, let's see whether or not Pocket Lamb are going to be able to get themselves in. We do see the Spartans starting to fight back a little bit. Ooh. And Cuckoo also now just going to be utilizing the position on the edge of Zord, just leveraging it into the side of Ecstasy. As you can see, Nax now also getting knocked right on down. The vehicle goes up in flames. The rest of the team also will fall to the carnage. That is Western University out of here. Fatchel, the villains, also now trying to just solidify their positioning up on the rankings here. South Carolina, one of those teams that could definitely do with a slight bit of an improvement so far with the 2 points that they've been able to secure. It does look pretty decent for them. I mean, they do have 1 point more than British Columbia, but they're going to have to, well, continue to lock those points on in. Right, so British Columbia, they go out without any placement points. They've got 1 point on board. So if South Carolina are going to be looking to catch up, they need more than the 2 points that they have now. They're going to have to make it up into placement point territory. So they've got their work cut out for them, but it's not going to be an impossible task, right? All they got to do is just keep their eyes, keep their focus on the zone. Speaking about zones, though, STG going up in smoke.
Yeah, they've blown up a teammate of theirs, but I think most of the rest of the team is still doing okay on that north side. Seems like they'll get that res off. Quaitland Polytechnic goes down in that 10th place position, but Liquid now starts to get involved around Sign to God, and that could be their final resting place inside the hay bales. 2 players down. Malo's the last one alive, and oh, he's stuck between his teammate and a hard place. Talk about a rock and a hard place. Even inside this smoke, I don't know how long he's going to live. Nades are being prepped to go in here. And it seems like those hay bales are going to keep him alive for the time being, but a jump in with maybe a shotgun point blank range. No, it's a P90 out of a crate for 4x4. And he's able to drop both of them down. Say goodbye to a 9th place finish for Sign to God, even with those couple of kills they were able to pick up.
I mean, Liquid went off-road in that one, right? Just rushing on through beautiful jump shots that we had coming in on that one. We do see Stone Cold also popping off a few hits there, reclaiming a little bit of that liquidity here. Now it's going to be Cocket Lamb. Oh, Jagger popping it up, and it's going to be Scout. Down goes Hankuku as well. The villains getting a little bit of that repayment, that return, getting sent their way. Fanshaw, off they go. Out in 8th place, at least walking away with placement points, but we did see quite the aggressive send coming in here by the side of the Rich Warriors. Ooh, South Carolina upstate, unfortunately not going to be able to make it out of here as Demon runs right over the team there. You see Flash also getting picked up in the feed. Now, down to the rest of our remaining teams, right? Only 6 remain, and, well, we've got 1.5 teams currently occupying zone. It's going to be Gunday and, of course, the Rich Warriors trying to lock it down, and even more vehicle carnage finding its way through in the feed.
I think Ding Ding's the last member alive for Liquid as well. So Ding Ding isolated on the north side of this zone. He still has to rotate, and you can see him far top right of your mini-map, kind of fading out of frame at this point. But with Gunday and the Rich Warriors all there, Seneca and Sting still having to rotate through, and Seneca's Frostbite on the east side, they're all kind of in the middle of everything. And the Rich Warriors, despite the fact they have 4 members actively alive, they're a lot more isolated than maybe you'd think otherwise. Jump in for Stone Cold, maybe not the most advisable of decisions. He does a decent bit of damage, but can't do much past that. And he's thinking to himself, where in the world is Demon? Where is my teammate gone? Turns out he took a decent bit of shots as well and had to go heal. Now he's going to try and get involved, but he has to do so just in the backside of that blue zone. And Jaga should have a free kill here, and he does. The Rich Warriors are able to lock down their east flank, and not much that really anybody else can do here. I would not be surprised if the Rich Warriors walk away from this game with not only winner and chicken dinner, but a lot of points to go alongside it.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking good. There's not much that you can fault at this point as we do say goodbye to Frostbite. As they've been thawed out. Here comes Sting now trying to get themselves positioned. It's going to be Meow. I think the last remaining hopeful here for the team. Fortunately, the terrain working out in their favor. Jagger, though, pretty committed to getting that carnage unlocked. Off in the distance, you can see Gunday as well, trying to inch their way, coming through on that western side. Those paint pulls going a long, long way. Ooh, that vehicle explosion, though, that could end it right there for Meow. But Jagger, got to focus on that zonal positioning, right? Can't give it all up to the blue juice. A little bit of tingle. It's not going to make it so that you can secure yourself all the way into this last few stages here. But at least, though, we do have the Rich Warriors and Gunday very decently and well secured. You can see Meow now still trying to figure out how on earth are they going to get themselves out of this one, as Gunday, though, starts to take aim. Thor getting hit with a little bit of that thunder blade going through here from so beautiful nades. You got Jazzy Karen also holding nice and steady up on the opposite end. Scarface is just looking on in admiration as the team now looks to find even more points. And this is it, right? Down to our final 9 players. 4 teams remain. Ding Ding still playing the best game of hide and seek up towards the north, but at some point, Ding Ding will have to move.
Dingle will have to move, but not by all that much. And if Canada West doesn't decide to rotate a little north, they're in a pretty decent position. This is, in all essence, a 4 versus 3, and it may even technically be a 3 versus 3, because I don't think they're going to be able to retrieve Thor. Kill comes through, Meow gets finished, Seneca is gone. We're down to our top 3, and Thor actually will get retrieved. They made the hot run all the way around the south side, and because they go for this, it may not be immediately expected. There's still 50 seconds on this play zone till it closes. There's still a decent bit of time for them to go for this. Ding Ding's going to try to heal off, but it's not going to matter. Even with 5 first aid kits that he's got in his back pocket, it's just delaying the inevitable of a 3rd place finish.
Well, I mean, back in the day, the heal strat was a thing. It's been changed in the meanwhile. Yeah. If we do see that heal strat being pulled off by Ding Ding, that would be quite impressive. Not going to lie about it. But either which way, here we go, right? We do have that glorious 4v3. Now, looking at the numbers, the rich Warriors are definitely rich when it comes to aggression. They've got a bucket load of eliminations, already sitting on 8 versus the 4 that we can see for the side of Gunday. Of course, that's only counting the players that are still, in this game. We do say goodbye to Ding Ding as they will get shipped on back. Conestoga out of it as they will have to settle for 3rd place in this match here. Now, Coquetlam, Canada West, both teams trying to find the way to get the best points. And I mean, if Coquetlam gets the points here, this could be quite the bit of a bounce we can see with regards to their points on the overall standings.
Oh, and Camper actually gets credit, it looks like, for that kill. They've gone up to 9 kills on that front. So Ding Ding going down, that was the way he got taken out. Jaga gets downed. Karon, the same case, but it was to a nade. And now is the time to swarm. If you are on the Rich Warriors, that's exactly what they do. Sook in a 1v, but he's not going to be able to do anything with it. They'll go down in second. Pocket Lamb picks up the winner chicken dinner after a 2nd place finish on Miramar and an 11, make it 13 kill finish back on this 2nd map of the day. They are your winner chicken dinners. They're on Miramar.
Yep. What a comeback, though. I mean, Coquetlam coming into this match sitting on 24 points. Right? Yeah. 24. And they might have almost nearly made all of that in just this one single match. Of course, we'll find out as soon as we get over into the standings. But yeah, quite the play coming through here from Coquetlam. Gotta love it, though. The Rich Warriors, right, coming in with all the honor here. Let's see who our MVT is going to be, our most valued team. And of course, well, the MVP rather, that's where you're going to start. Yeah. Jat, 24k again, coming in. Still with the 5 eliminations, changing up the damage so ever so slightly, locking in 780 damage. But Rich Warriors, though, I love this consistency here for them.
Yeah, it was them with 12 total elims as a team. Condors right behind them. Ding Ding also had 5 elims this game. But as a team, the Condors escaped with 8 elims and a 3rd place finish. That's 13 points for them. Not by any means a bad showing, especially when Ding Ding was an isolated member outside the top 7 teams or so. We'll take a look at our MVT. I think we can all take a wild gander at who it is. It's Coquetlam. 12 elims, nearly double their elim total in damage with 2,400 roundabout damage. That is a lot of shooting in this 2nd game of play.
What a surprise, right? What a surprise that was. We never saw that one coming. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so this is actually quite an impressive feat that we've been seeing come through here from Coquetlam, right? Especially looking at their MVP, right? MVP back-to-back. Yesterday wasn't even featuring on the list with regards to the elimination, right? Didn't make it into the top 10. Today, already sitting with 10 eliminations just in the first 2 matches. So very impressive performances, plays coming through here from them, and of course taking over these points. Look at that. What a jump, though. I mean, like, Coquetlam went from exactly that same spot on the right-hand side, right? From 9th all the way up into pole position.
I think I may be able to do you one better. After game 3 yesterday, after day 1, they had 11 points. They over doubled that out of game 4. and they went up to 24 points. And then they nearly doubled that as well with a 22-point victory. They are leading because of a placement point tiebreaker. Conestoga right behind him. Again, credit where it is due. 8 elims in that game alongside the 5 placement points for a third place finish. Fanshawe, despite the fact they didn't do a heck of a lot in that game, they still had 4 elims, nothing to scoff at. Or sorry, 5 elims, nothing to scoff at. But St. Lawrence, they only got 2 points. Canada West, I think, only got 1. This is a big change game over game. And Cocket Lamb goes from, what was that, tied for, or just behind in 11th place, and they go up to first in the span of 2 games.
I mean, it's impressive, right? It is super impressive. I mean, and hard work, it pays off, right?
Yeah.
I would not have said that you know, Conestoga was going to be playing such a runaway performance like they've been bringing in here today. I mean, just based on where they were coming into today, as you said, starting the day out with 11 points on board, and now look at where they are. They went from 11th place all the way up, you know, adding those 2 ones together, making them 1, and now they sit right up at the top of the leaderboard. Absolutely impressive stuff. But the interesting thing is we still have 1 match to go, right? Now, if any of the teams realistically in the top 8, we could maybe put in Kwantlen Polytechnic. We could maybe include them in that. But if any of those teams decide this is the match, they could still make a run for the money. They could still secure position up towards the top.
I mean, with 22 points there for Cocket Lamb, if anybody at this point in the day, apart from maybe Kwantlen Polytechnic, picks up a 22-point game, even maybe more than that, they could stream away with first place. It's also down to how Conestoga, how Cocket Lamb, how even Fanshawe, St. Lawrence, and Canada West do in this game, because they don't need all that many points to guarantee a top 2, if not the first place finish. But we very well could see, I'd say any of the top 8, maybe 9 teams finish both in the money or even in those PMSL qualifying positions in the top 2.
It's gonna be tight, right? I mean, I don't think we've ever seen the grand finals come down to such a close matchup, right? The points difference being as low as it is here. I mean, there's not a lot separating the teams, right? Between first and 8th place, we're looking at 15 points. That doesn't sound like much. Well, firstly, because it's not really all that much. So that could quite easily be acquired in 1 single game, just based on the kind of you know, pacing that these teams have been bringing in. And of course, we're heading into Sanhok, right? It's a crazy map. It's an aggressive map. It's a map that allows the teams to go wild. So I'm expecting quite a bit to happen here.
So for all of you who may be curious as to where we were at the end of map 2 in our previous grand final, we still had a couple of the same rosters at that point. But Humber College, Guelph Humber College, was at 69 points after game 5. The next closest team was Centennial College at 50, and then University of California Davis at 42. Then there were some other teams, but who cares about them? They weren't close. There was a 19-point deficit after game number 5. Here, we've got, if you want to cover 19 points, we've got almost our top 9 teams, with Kwantlen there 20 points away. That is how insanely different this is from our spring 2024 grand finals. But these grand finals, not done just yet. We'll cover who is able to finish things off in first place, and maybe one more winner chicken dinner as we go to our only instance of Sanhok when we return. 5 of 6 maps have been played here in our PUBG Mobile Campus Championships 2024 Grand Finals. Our last one is also one of the 2 most unique to be seen. Technically, the most unique if you count back into the semifinals. This is the only time these teams will play Sanhok here between our semis and Grand Finals. I'm honestly really excited to see it. Same case back in our previous 2 Grand Finals as well. It's not a very often map to be seen across PUBG Mobile, much less here in our PUBG Mobile Campus Championships.
It depends. It depends on what you're watching, right? It depends on what you're watching, but it's always exciting when Sanhok comes into rotation. It is it's a map that it's an aggressive map, right? I love watching it. I don't like playing it, but that is, you know, probably why we're here talking about what the players are going to be doing as opposed to being down on the ground with them. Because I can bet you, if I was in that lobby, the first elimination would be me, right? I can almost guarantee that. That's just the way it goes. You know, I'm a bot when it comes to playing. My teammates will vouch for that. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing just what the teams are going to be looking into this one, right? Could we see maybe an insane clutch up coming through from Hansen into this final match of the day? Who knows? Could we have Quantum Polytechnic looking to improve their standings in comparison to what we had last season, right? In the previous semester, and well, we could also then see insane runaway performance by any of the teams on the left side of that standings. So yeah, I think this is going to be quite the matchup to see how this one will pan out, because in all honesty, I don't have a cooking clue what is going to be happening here.
So I'm looking back at the last time that we saw Sanhok on stream. It was April 7th of this year in our spring Grand Finals. And the only 2 rosters that had experience in that top 8 was the roster here for Fate, at least some of the roster. Shah is one of those. He's since changed his name slightly to Shaw77K for some reason. And then most of the Liquid roster there from Conestoga. Here's your leaderboard after 5 games. Both of those rosters are still in very much touching distance, but Conestoga, if they can even replicate some of their success there, they could very much walk away from this one. They finished in 5th place after trying to heal off again in the zone. It was also Ding Ding, by the way, to make things even more funny. Same things we just saw on Miramar. But here, I mean, they just need a decent showing, and they needed Cocket Lamb, Fanshawe, St. Lawrence, and Canada West all to not do very well, which is a tall order in all fairness. But if they do that, they're walking away from this one champion.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, if there's one team that I'm not really worried about with regards to their performance and what we're going to be seeing from them, it has to be Liquid, right? Conestoga. Because, I mean, just looking at the points and the leaderboards from the start of yesterday to today, they've been consistent every single time, right? They've managed to just maintain their position on the left side of the leaderboard. They've just stuck around. They've just hung in there. And I mean, it's paid off, right? We were talking about consistency earlier. It's pretty evident. Looking at the eliminations, they lead the pack with 36 eliminations. That's insane. That's an insane amount of eliminations. And I mean, it's what, 8 more than the nearest team to them, which is Fanshawe, positioned just below them. So some pretty crazy plays that we've been seeing come through from them. I think for Conestoga, if they're going to be the one to take the cake here, it would be based on placement points, right? Just add a few additional placement points on top of what they've been doing based on the aggression, right? Don't change anything with the eliminations. Keep that the same, but just, you know, maybe survive a little while longer. And you can see as we look at the points how the kind of balances changes up between these teams, right? A lot of teams putting quite a bit of focus on the aggression, and the aggression pays off, right? How many teams do we have with 40 points to their name, or 40 plus, right? Several of them. So I think if you kind of find that balance and you have the ability to adjust along the way, I think that could be quite an essential key factor for teams really to try and lock it in based on what we've been seeing so far.
So we can take a look at our maps. Remind you where our last haven lies. In this case, our final gauntlet is on Sanhok. And, I mean, we could see teams drop hot because there are not as many consistent POIs where teams like to drop here compared to other maps. we could see teams drop in the middle of nowhere and just patiently play towards a later stage. There are a couple of rosters that could just play for some placement points here and they're in a good spot. There are others who very much need all the kills they can find and a winner chicken dinner. They got no hope.
Yeah, there's no arguing with that, right? Them chickens, they can come in tasting quite nice at this point. So, yeah, let's see how far this one is gonna go. Of course, we'll be getting into the action pretty soon. Now, before we get in though, TTL, this is where I want to ask you, where do you think we are going to be going with regards to zone, right? There's no point in asking flight path because flight path, Sanhok, doesn't matter all too much, right?
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at our map. Figure out at least where the flight path is, if it matters all that much. It really doesn't. Most of the map is in playable distance from this flight path. You got maybe a 2-kilometer drop towards Sami and Nakam. But I'd say zone, if I am getting what I want, it's going to go northeast. But I really want it to go northwest, so really only Camp Alpha is in the playable portion of it, or the important part of it, if not hot tin. I'd like to see teams just have to make mad scrambles across multiple bridges and hopefully see the villains pop up. But there's no guess that is going to be as good as the result we find in just a few seconds' time.
Yep. Well, I mean... yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Painan essentially being smack dab center zone. I think that's going to be a good one. What's not looking all too great is going to be down to that southeastern side, right? Kande, TTR, SCG, they're pretty close. And the thing, you know, where Sanhok differs from Miramar. On Miramar, objects are much further away than they appear when looking at the map. That's not the case on Sanhok, right? If it looks close on Sanhok, it's because it is. So, yeah, Kande, as well as TTR. TTR, this is going to be a big test to see whether or not they can hold their own, right? We do see them sat in #1, right, on the match rankings for this match for no reason whatsoever, just because why not? Right, but let's see whether or not they can actually maintain that and just find a few more points to get themselves over onto the left-hand side. So,
with where we currently sit in terms of the overall standings, Cocket Lambs at 46. They are the largest riser in the previous game for obvious reasons. But at this point, Conestoga is the only team alongside Fanshawe who have been in the top 4 after every single game. And here is where Canada West can pick up some really nice points against Hanson College. Remember, this is a team that's still at 15 points and not in anywhere near touching distance of the top 6, much less even the top 2. TTR, they love these points a heck of a lot more and another win if they can find it or something similar to it. But they need a lot, and Canada West being in their general vicinity does not help them by any means.
Yeah, I mean, and just on that, you know, on that what you were talking about, the points, right? So looking at the point differential coming through, I mean, Canada West, they're in the money, right? Based on their current point positioning, they're getting money out of this, so they don't have to work too hard to ensure that they secure that position. This is a way more important fight for the side of Hanson, because they stand to lose out on so much if this doesn't go well for them, right? So, oh, speak of which, here comes the first hit. They've only come into this match with a 3-piece. That's going to be bathed down as well. So Prince needs to play a serious game of let's try and not get shot right now.
Where is
That's
Prince?
Going to be the game for Prince.
He's like 300 meters northeast of his team, and he's actively shooting at Sign to God. He's got a down. I don't know if he's going to be able to finish that one off just because of the direction he's in, but those shots were definitely heard. No way Scarface gets the angle on that. It's jazzy to do so. Wow, Hanson's gone in 15th. Portage College didn't even show up.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we've kind of accepted it. So that's at least 2 points that teams may not have. Speaking of points, by the way, from Portage College, it was Sting from the previous game who picked up some of those points. They had a 7-point game themselves. Their counterparts in Frostbite, they had a 6-point game. So not bad by any means for them. But I was talking about the same case for Conestoga. Conestoga has not had any individual games that have been wow, outstanding, what a game changer. No 20-plus pointers. Game 1, they had 15. Game 2, they had 4. Game 3, they had 8. Game 4, they had 6. And in that most recent game, they just had 13. I say just. Still a good showing for him. But it's not like they took any individual map and said, hey, let's make this our own. They just had some pretty decent, consistent showings, and that's where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's consistency for you, right? That's all it is. If you can just lock in those points as often as you can, it pays off. It makes things a lot easier coming into the last match of the event here. And speaking of which, though, Ecstasy, yeah, they I don't know if they really are going to be showing quite a bit of that determination. We could maybe see some good changes coming through from them. I like that the response coming through from Mr. Flash. No, onto the side there of Fate. Hustle thought, you know, this is going to be easy pickup. Instead, what a surprise. And the shots connected on through. But yeah, back to the side of Western University. I mean, they were looking pretty decent with their pacing at the start of yesterday, right? Game 1, Game 2, things were looking pretty positive for them. I'm not quite sure if I'm all too convinced of that stepping into Game 2, Game 3 yesterday, Game 1 today. You know, I don't quite know, but I'm open to being surprised in the final match of the day.
With these couple of separate rosters that are all very much in touching distance of getting at least in the money, all fighting early. Some of these teams can't afford to go down as quickly as they are. There's a great smoke there by RQ9. He tried to pick up his teammate, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to do so. Unfortunate timing there, but he at least gets the finish. Nervous goes down as well behind him, so he's going to pick up any extra straggling utility that was on the ground and just maybe go pick up the car and move elsewhere. But now with the Spartans and Ecstasy still fighting, Spartans can't afford to lose really anything here. Again, they picked up, what, 7 total points in the last 3 games. It has not been a good showing for them since their winner chicken dinner back on Erangel yesterday. That has to change here. They can't afford to go down early because they'll almost certainly stay out of the points, much less try to get in.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite important for those points to come their way. Good jump here coming through from the side of 1. But you got to watch out for Chota, right? Chota, as we saw yesterday, can definitely fill up the quota for the team. So are we going to see those sprays? Are we going to have the players? The jump shot will deny those points from coming on through. South Carolina Upstate, out they go in 14th. Western Ecstasy sitting with a very comfortable 4 points on board. You gotta love this. This is a good start, right? Now I want to see them just keep that ball rolling.
No, that's great news for both Western and for Queensland Polytechnic alongside BCIT, because South Carolina State gets 0 points from this game. Not only that, but they stay in 7th place. That is outside the money, importantly enough. Those are our first real finishers in terms of a defined position being outside the money. Where they finish outside of the money doesn't matter, but they are outside the money, and that's the important aspect. Signed to God, a little errant here, which is kind of surprising considering their perspective. They can't afford to get caught in these long-range fights. And Akash is going from, what is that, like 200 meters, if not further? What?
Yes, it's far away. Like pick a number. It's maybe even more than that. But here we go. As we do see Akash now looking to double down on the efforts. I like this approach coming through here from STG. You know, they just reminding us, you know, we have it. We have it. We can play these crazy approaches. But now we just need to see more of a push, you know, more of those angles coming through. And of course, we were talking about a Western, we were talking about Queensland Poly. You know, STG, St. Clair, also one of those teams sitting right very much in that same situation, right? Same position on the leaderboard. And they could also, you know, benefit off of quite a few points coming their way.
I mean, we're already down to 12 teams here, losing more and more as the game continues, and Gunday can't afford to be that 11th team or the team to make it down to 11. Sook will be finished off. Akash ends up getting that finality, but they're getting more. Under Karen as well. Is that really it for Gunday here? I mean, Canada West, they're in 5th place, but not by a heck of a lot.
Well, I mean, you can add in the placement, not the placement points, the elimination that they've been able to secure so far. Scarface, it's going to be a tough one here. The blue, fortunate, to not be doing too much damage, but instead, it is going to be Esran that comes through, packing the necessary punch, wrapping it up right then and there. But speaking about wrapping it up, Demon dropping the ball as Arctic Talons come rushing right up alongside them and just ripping a big chunk out of the side here of Frostbite.
The fact that Centennial's getting involved that early as well. They're the team that's just behind Canada West. Now, technically, so is St. Lawrence and Fanshawe. Canada West will finish with 5 kills and 45 points overall. So they won't get the PMSL qual points. That was nearly a guarantee already. But the important factor here is that as they disengage, Centennial got involved and they're looking for more. It's actually BCIT to take those shots. And Frostbite goes down to 11th. The fact that this is a quarter of the size of our larger maps of Erangel, Miramar, and even Vikendi makes it a little bit more of a problematic portion for teams that are trying to play hide and seek with one player or two. They don't have that same opportunity. And what is Callan? Callan just out in the middle? What was he doing? He's dead. Huh?
Yeah, goodbye. It's Samosa coming in. Wrapping that one up right then and there. I mean, to put into perspective, you're saying that this is a smaller map. This, us being in stage 2 is about the equivalent of being in like stage 4, stage 5 on any of the other maps. So, yep, it is already cutting down quite a bit on the playable area. The zone currently is about 2 kilometers across, right? So from one end to the other. So definitely not a lot of territory to play with here. But I like this play, though, coming through for Scar, right? British Columbia IT, very well perched up on Bootcamp Hill. I mean, this is such a powerful position, especially looking at how it is located in this current zone, right? More towards that western front. We got a few teams still trying to trickle on in, coming in off the edges here. So I think for British Columbia, I mean, this could be their ticket to quite a few additional points coming their way.
They've already gotten a couple of those kills. Callan going down there is drastically bad, though. They were expecting to play with all 4. They should still have them. What do you mean? You can look at the right side of your screen for yourself. Queensland Polytechnic with 4, Western with 4 kills, St. Clair even the same. Those 3 teams all started in 9th, 10th, and 11th places. And Centennial, alongside BCIT, started in 6th and 8th respectively. So I'd say this is where the teams on the lower end of our spectrum can spend time finding and hunting out the higher up squads, even ones that are still alive, like Georgian, or even like the other Seneca Sting roster. I say Sting, I think Sting is already gone too. Didn't Sting die earlier? Did Sting die earlier?
Well,
I don't see him.
Yeah, I also don't really see them, so I'm pretty sure the answer to that is a very likely possible yes. Yeah.
Oh, they were in that fight with Liquid. That's what it was. And then they got swarmed as well. It was them, and Frostbite went down like a minute and a half later. Here's your view of the map. Fate's got there too, rotating in from the south side. Again, Shaw is, I think, the only rostered player in this game that made it into the top 8 of the spring version of Sanhok. And he finished in 5th place trying to heal off there as well. So he's got some experience. Even in this general area of the map, it was a fairly similar zone, actually. But problem is, he still doesn't have 2 of his teammates.
Yeah, that would probably help quite a bit, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, c'est la vie, no? It is what it is. So such is life. In the meanwhile, we're going to be looking over to the villains that are going to be looking to swoop on in as they do take their approach coming in from that eastern side. I'm curious to see where they're going to look to pull into, right? Are they going to move down towards Ecstasy? Are they going to maybe flank up towards STG? Or will they go for a 2-2 split, right? Pushing up one angle through Quarry right into the middle there of BTX and STG? Or are they going to full send it around the outside of Cave?
You can see these teams kind of just try and find early hiding spots if they've got the opportunity to get it. Fate will probably be one of those. The problem is Georgian College will definitely hear them rotate in, and Liquid should have seen them do so. And Ecstasy has that same benefit of both vision and audio. I would not be surprised if Fate does not live all that long, even though they found a couple of very viable buildings. Those buildings are going to be swarmed, especially when this next zone starts to close, as it already has started to do so.
Well, the pressure is going to be on. Dr. Doom going for a nice little bit of a leisurely stroll here as the villains look for the entry point up into the zone. We've got Ultron already secured somewhat, right? They've dipped their toes in, but how will they look to take the approach from here moving forward? You can see Fanshaw, Hankoku now spotting out a bit of an opportunity across the way as Ecstasy will fall victim to that knockdown. Fortunately for the villains, it's not been converted just yet, but you can see the team now starting to just close the gap as they start to circle on up. Up comes the push, the blade. Dr. Doom now starting to ride the ridge, cooking up the utility. You gotta still watch out for Stranger, because the moment you crest this ridge, you put yourself right in line of sight of Stranger. So there's going to be quite a bit of those blades coming through, but Loki gets dropped on down, and now Stranger is going to be no stranger to the pressure here, as the action will not get turned down towards them.
Well, there's not much you can do, and a drive-by ends up being hit with the car. Dr. Doom gets the finish, and I think he ended up getting credit for the down. Either way, it's 3 finishes onto Canada, and that should be just about it if you're looking at this, at least from their perspective of Western University. It's some crosstown rivalry. Villains from Ontario, Canada West, or Western University, sorry, from the far side of British Columbia. Established dominance in the Eastern time zone, I guess.
I guess that's one way of doing it, right? Speaking of which, though, we do see the rotations now starting to hit back out to zone. It's like the villains aren't done yet. They want to finish the job. They've caught scent of the Stranger. So those alarms going off. Scout, Dr. Doom, whole entirety here of Fanshaw now just starting to encircle. I'm curious to see that we've not had the mollies come out yet. You know, being on Sanhok, those mollies, they do love to expand out on these wooden floors. There we go. Ooh, all right. Stranger coming through with a quick little cheeky response, but unfortunately is going to get ended right then and there. Cockadam, though, the one team that's made quite a bit of a bounce back here today, not facing too much obstacles at this point in time. Meanwhile, it's going to be BTX and 777 having a bit of a showdown right here on the edge of zone. How is this one going to go, though? I mean, St. Lawrence definitely going to be looking to just reinforce their overall positioning in those standings. So far, things looking pretty good for them.
Yeah, they've gotten a down or two. The problem is there's more getting involved. The Rich Warriors off that northwest side means Georgian College can't follow up on the downs they've picked up, and they're getting swarmed themselves. A kill or two, yeah, sure, there for St. Lawrence. But that's the first points for St. Lawrence. And this is a team that, again, coming into this, is in 4th place. They're starting 4 away from Coquitlam and Conestoga. But look at the right side of your screen. Coquitlam, 8 points. Conestoga in 8th, technically, with 1 point. Conestoga, 0 points. BCIT's only got 2. The top team right now is Fanshaw College because they've got those 4 elims from early in this game.
Well, things looking pretty good on their end, though. But I just got to give it up to the side of Georgian, right? Because, I mean, we've been seeing them be quite active over the past, you know, few matches. They've not necessarily been able to secure all the points that they would have wanted, but you can definitely see a lot of effort coming through from their side, right? A lot of the attempts being made is like, you know, oh, let's try this approach, let's try this play, let's try this angle here. Things looking pretty good. I think there's a lot of potential here for them. I say that, and then of course Jut needed to end the run right then and there. One quick swift molly or grenade to be sent in ends the run. But yeah, I think still big up going out to the side there of Georgia. And meanwhile, St. Lawrence, I think this is going to be their opportunity to try and maybe make a play for those 2 qualifying slots.
Low health on that car. Even worse, that Jack goes down and should be finished off here. St. Lawrence being torn apart from distance, and they'll go down just barely in the points, but with very few points in totality. Maybe 44 points will be their finishing spot. We'll have to get the final tally at the end of the day. But the villains shutting them down just the same, and they're trying to run away with this final game and thus the grand finals in Oakland. So.
Well, let's see how this one is going to pan out here. Ooh, nice bit of a spray coming through here from Quantum Polytechnic all the way up towards the hills. Liquid now actually starting to react based on the shots that we've been hearing come through here from the side of Bait. So I want to see whether or not the action, ooh, is going to start rolling down. Yep, there it goes. I mean, Liquid though, they made it look so effortless. Neon just so on point with the utility here.
So if you're looking at this from Liquid, they have to get in just the same. The problem is they're being kind of gate-kept by Scar, and Arctic Talon's on the south side of Painan. At this point, this is a very difficult rotation if they even want to try and go for it. And the villains are building up more points because Akash is out on an island. More than likely, he's actually in the water next to the island, and he won't live through this. It's just a matter of how long it takes him to go down. St. Clair goes down in 6th, and that's the villains with 7 elims thus far. Anybody who's near them in terms of points is Coquetlam and Conestoga, and both of them have a combined 3 kills. Nothing to write home about.
Well, it's still going to be a pretty interesting approach here. Let's see, our two top position teams still in it, right? But not looking too great with the count. You know, the elimination count that we've got for them. They still secure themselves the placement points. It is going to be Scar that's going to be feeling a little bit of that heat now, as we did see in the feed. The utilities getting dispersed all over the place here. So that's going to be BCIT. Here we go. It's going to be the Arctic Talons, aka Centennial. Now trying to capitalize on a bit of a surprise play here onto the side of Liquid. But those utilities definitely causing quite a bit of an issue. Villains though, nice and quiet. The Rich Warriors also keeping a very concise position up towards the north, right? Just keeping themselves out of the fights. They want to ride the storm as far as they can, trying to find that opportune moment to strike. Now it's going to be Conestoga. Liquid just looking to secure the edge here. Going to try and clear that pathway to get themselves all the way back up in towards the zone. But up comes the Samosa in from Centennial. Does find the play onto Neon. And that is going to be an unfortunate end right here for Conestoga, as they will get sent out in 5th place. We still now have 4 teams remaining. It is going to be Coquetlam also trying their best to try and survive. But the villains, as well as the Rich Warriors, are now just going toe to toe, and it's almost our final 2 teams. Well, at least the final 2 teams in zone.
Yeah, the problem is the Rich Warriors have still all 4 of their members, and BCIT is being walked in on by Arctic Talon. BCIT is going to win the fight, but they're still down to 2. And at this point, it's what? A 4 versus 2 versus 2. The villains are leading everything for the time being. BCIT needs to kill everybody remaining and get the winner chicken dinner if they want to try to escape with this victory in the grand finals. But the Rich Warriors from Coquetlam are looking to just play the long game. They want the points from the winner chicken dinner. They want to shut down Fanshawe, but they need both the points to do so. 1 down already in their favor, and a 4 versus 1 for Dr. Doom, trying to give them the grand finals if he can find it. But he's got limited weaponry and absolutely no help. Fanshawe goes down in 2nd place, but will their points be enough to pick up the grand finals victory? Coquetlam pick up the winner chicken dinner on our final map of Sanhok. But the question is, how many elims did they have at the end of it? Because I think the number's only 4.
I mean, it's been back-to-back winner chicken dinners coming through from Coquetlam. I think our most consistent team here, right? 2nd place match 1. Chicken in game 2, chicken right here in game 3. I mean, they gotta be feeling so full at this point, right? So much chicken in such a short span of time. Absolutely phenomenal play though. But yes, did they do enough? Was this enough to secure their position? Because coming into this match, Fanshawe was trailing by only 2 points. That was it. There was only 2 points difference between the tie in 1st and 2nd and that 3rd place. So Fanshawe definitely did bring in quite a bit of heat, trying to get themselves secured, maybe looking to upset at least second place or something, but it's going to come down to the wire. So a very, very tight play here. Of course, speaking about which, let's take a look and see who our MVP is as we make our move into that. It is going to be Somoza, securing themselves 4 eliminations and 2 points under 1k damage.
Yeah, they were putting up the numbers even from distance. They made sure they got involved at nearly every point possible. Dill from Scar and BCIT also had 4 elims. So did Hankuku from the Villains. So there were some numbers being built by individuals in this game. But, I mean, the real problem point, from my perspective, is the lack of kills from the Condors and Liquid Esports. 1 elim total and just a couple placement points. They may fall out of even the top 5.
Well, let's find out what is going to be the play here as we take a look at our MVT. Is it going to be the Arctic Talons? No, it's going to go straight over to the side here of Fanshawe, picking up 9 eliminations and 1,500 damage.
Wow.
Now, it has already been super, super close here, TTL. I mean, it's going to be so nerve-wracking for these teams to see the overall points eventually.
We are going to even have to send things away so we can make sure we get the numbers down before. We're going to send things to a break. We're going to make sure we do all the calculations possible in the background, get our numbers right, because we've been told don't do math on broadcast. I've gotten it wrong like 3 times already today. We're going to do it off broadcast on our break. When we come back, we've got your winner. We've also got your qualifiers of the PMSL and the teams in the money just after this. The numbers have been numbered, the calculations have been calculated. The PUBG Mobile Campus Championships here in fall of 2024 have come to a conclusion, and we've got your winners rearing and ready to go. Let's take a look. Drum roll, please, Mr. DK, as to who the champions are here in the PUBG Mobile Campus Championships. I think it'll come as a big surprise to those who may not have been watching earlier on, but your winners here in the PUBG Mobile Campus Championships Fall 2024 Grand Finals are...
Insane performance going through here from the Rich Warriors. Just gotta love all the action that they were bringing in here. And I mean, I think this is an exceptionally well-deserved victory coming through for Cocket Lamb, the Rich Warriors. But of course, they weren't the only team in this event, right? Let's take a look at the standings, at the overall rankings to see how the other teams did. And of course, we had quite a few impressive performances. I mean, look at Fanshawe coming in super close to that pole position.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure Cocket Lamb, they were a little bit hesitant, right? I don't think they were 100% convinced that they had locked this one in just yet.
Man, you can't blame them. If they don't get those 2 kills on the villains, or even if the villains get 2 more kills earlier before that final 3 scenario, this would have been a tie, and it would have gone still to Cocket Lamb on placement points, but it would have been a heck of a lot closer than it already was, and it was still very close. Fanshawe ends up matching Conestoga with the most team eliminations in this lobby, and they will end up walking out the second PMSL qualifying position, along with $4,000. But Conestoga, I mean, a team that had a great opportunity. They were fairly consistent all the way through. They matched their worst individual game, and that, back in day number 1, was on Erangel. Could have been better. They walk away from it without what could have been a PMSL qualifying spot.
Yeah, it could have been, but you know, what an exceptional event it has been so far, right? We saw some pretty insane gameplay coming through all the way from the qualifiers all the way leading up to the finals right here. I mean, we've seen some amazing teams step out, teams that we've not yet seen make it to the stage before, coming through, just keeping the grind going, and it paid off, right? Some phenomenal results that we had being quite evident here, and you gotta love the action. I mean, we did see a few teams trying to get themselves you know, into a bit of another situation here, right? Trying to find that extra little bit of spice, a little bit of something that could change it up. But, well, sometimes it just needs a little bit more refinement.
So Cocket Lamb entered today with 11 points. They finished with 61. In those 3 games, in game number 1, they finished in 2nd place with 7 kills. That's a 13-point game. Game number 2, or game number 5 overall, they had 12 kills and the winner chicken dinner. And our final game, they had 5 elims and that same winner chicken dinner. They had 13, 22, and 15 between those 3 games, averaging 16 points and change per game. Just for some context, for anybody who may or may not be curious, if you did that across all 6 games, you'd finish with 96 points in this event. That shows you how dominant their day 1 results were, and it still got them the win, despite the fact they were trailing by 23 points to start the day. That's how crazy this day 2 was.
It's insane. It is insane, but it also just shows you how much determination pays off, right? If you just come in with that that conviction, deciding, you know what, this is going to be it, it works. It works. And I mean, you know, my hat goes off to them. It's been a phenomenal performance that we've had coming in here. But again, as we've said, you know, Cocket Lamb, not the only team that we've had here. We've had some pretty fine plays across the board. And, you know, like I've said, like I want to see the teams continue to develop their strategies, develop their play style, develop, you know, the angles or the approaches they could look to take here. I mean, we've been seeing such a progressional improvement coming through season after season after season. And, you know, now we have those two teams that are going to be featuring or having the opportunity rather to make it up into the PMSL qualifiers. So, you know, this is a great way of paving the potential for teams and allowing for great, you know, talent really to be developed within the region.
Yeah, I'm also looking at some of these teams where we've seen some individuals play outside of the collegiate scene. I'd like to see that happen a lot more, where there's a defined way from collegiate directly possibly into either semi-pro or professional play. I mean, you and I talked about this before our stream started. WEC is just next week. We saw the North American roster just finish outside that top 3 or top 2 to try and qualify there. Granted, they had half the points of the second place roster, but they were just outside. Could have been better, could have certainly been worse. There's still very much opportunities for teams here in North America to improve down the line. Yeah,
no, there definitely is opportunities for teams, and I think this is going to be, you know, that is going to be the important bit. So all the teams having, or if the teams really want to take it as far as they can, they're going to have to try and capitalize on as many opportunities as they can. And I mean, there is a multitude of these opportunities available for teams to participate in. It all comes down to how bad and how hungry are they to get to where they want to be, right? If they're really committed to getting it, nothing can stop them. We've seen an insane play coming through from a team that decided today they want the victory slot, and they got it, right? So, you know, if you want it, you know what to do.
Yeah. Final thoughts out of day number 2 in the grand finals in their entirety?
No. I think I've said everything that I wanted to say, right? Mad respect going out to all these teams. They would kick my butt any day of the week. So, yes. Well, freaking done. Amazing job. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So it was a tale of 2 very different stories today. Fanshawe College, they were one of 2 teams that were in the top 4 for the entirety of the event. Them alongside Conestoga College. They had 18 points in game 1, 2 in game 2, 11 in game 3, 9 in game 4, and then to close things out in game 5, they had just 4 points. They were still on the outside of that number 1 spot, and they were topped by a team that started well behind them in day number 2, a full 20-point deficit when we entered into game at day number 2, yet a 2-point advantage for Cocket Lamb as we went into game number 6, and they held that 2-point advantage by the exact same margin. It was a 15-point game for both rosters, but Cocket Lamb escapes with 61 points, just better than Fanshawe's 59. The final standings read as so. Cocket Lamb gets the PMSL qualifying position and $6,000. Conestoga, right behind them, had a shot at closing it out with the advantage and maybe that second opportunity. They were not able to do so. They will go down in 3rd with 3,000 and just outside that PMSL qualifying position. Fanshawe College is the ones that get the $4,000 and that PMSL qualifying point. Just behind them and just behind basically everybody at this point, I gotta say, credit where credit is due to the rosters that kind of backed up that top 6. We didn't really expect them to get there. We expected South Carolina Upstate to do something after that game 3 yesterday, even game 2 yesterday. They finished with 7 total points in the final 4 games of play. But that's all for us here on the PUBG Mobile Campus Championships. A massive thank you to Mayan Esports, Playfly, and everybody here at the PUBG Mobile Esports team that allowed us to bring this broadcast to you. And a thank you very much to DK for joining me here on yet another Grand Finals broadcast. We hope to see you back here in the spring. For all of you who are thinking, wait, how do I get involved in this? Make sure your college has a PUBG Mobile Esports team. And don't forget to play in the qualifiers. They're free to enter. We hope to see you then. We hope to see you here in our semifinals and grand finals in the spring. But until then, congratulations to Cocket Lamb and Fanshawe for qualifying. Congrats to Cocket Lamb for their victory here in the grand finals. And we'll see you there in the spring of 2025.